Hi, everybody. It's Deirdre Fay, and I wanted to talk to you about developing inner ground. It's because I had this question from somebody, and it couldn't have been more timely for me because I needed today to develop some inner ground. So this was the question. I realized I would like more tools to use with my clients and myself in regard to grounding. This person, Leslie, was asking for a fresh perspective. Do you have any recommendations in regards to how to support the felt sense of grounding? So in the body, right? Especially for those who are very fearful of being in the body. Leslie continues, I'm working with many clients that are suffering from anorexia, and the body is a very frightening place for them. But also, my less acute clients in my private practice need help settling into the lower experience, if that makes sense. So landing more in the body. As we say, they're stuck in their heads and consistently reach for reason and logic to heal their hurting heart. And it just doesn't work. She asked me if that makes sense. It totally makes sense. Totally. So the simple piece I want to start with is we're all afraid of being in our bodies most of the time. Sometimes it's easy, right? Sometimes we can move from our external world to our internal world, but often it's pretty activating. Often there's a lot of turmoil that go through. We're so used to being drawn into the external world and being caught up in all the hustle bustle of our lives, which I was this morning. So then it's hard to slow down. Right, and I guess that's one of the main key things is slowing down, because when we're in our daily world, it's a different kind of time. When we want to go inside and feel safe inside, we have to be able to move a little bit more fluidly. I talked about this last week in my Facebook Live, but it's true about this too. So I made myself some notes here. I talk often about there are two journeys that we need to take, from outside to inside. And that journey for many of us is a different time zone. We shift. We have to go from to slowing down. And that begins to allow us to enter inside. So that's one key thing. Then the other thing is, and you say it here, Leslie, we're stuck in our heads. You know, this isn't just your clients. I know I can get into this too, of being stuck and lost in my heads and trying to understand and reason what's going on instead of being able to listen to that other flow inside, the flow of really my heart talking to myself, or my deeper wisdom, or my inner guidance, however, whatever language you want to use for that. So how do we do that? The first step is shifting gears, pausing, and beginning to that entry inside. And then the second is going from our head to a different center of gravity. Now, this is where you're going to have to play with this yourself and see what works for you. There's two things that I have found that work. You know, in the old days, we talked about grounding in our feet. I don't know if you remember those days, but people would talk about, all the body-oriented therapists were talking about grounding in your feet. And I was like, that doesn't work for me. And it doesn't work for me because in many ways, my feet are too far away from me. Does that make sense? I mean, you tell me if it's true for you. So I noticed with my clients on the whole spectrum, from the most complicated to even the easiest clients, they needed something more proximal to themselves. Is that even the right word? I'm not sure. Something that's closer to their felt experience of themselves. The legs, the feet, the hands can sometimes feel out there in the extremities. That's what we call them, extremities. So what is even closer? So I began to think about, where are the most nerves? And that's in our spine, our spinal column. That's where all those nerves flow in and through and around. So just notice, even right now, while you're here listening, what's it like to bring your attention to your spine? I know for me, I have to orient myself differently. Rather than being out here, to go to my spine, I have to go inside to my back, right? Is that true for you? Right? So, like, wiggle a little against your chair or whatever you're sitting in. Maybe you're outside against a tree, nice wiggle your back and feel your spine. We want to connect to that spine aspect there and just notice what happens. I'd be very curious. Post if you can. What is that like to shift your attention from outside to your spine? Now, I want to give you another piece of research around that. My colleague and friend, Dr. Frank Corrigan, is doing a lot of research about what he calls the deep brain, not just he, but it's called the deep brain in neuroscience. And what he's having people do is not just focus on the spine, but on the back of the neck. And that is where some fascinating research is happening around orienting to a slower pace. And I tease Frank, we don't know this for sure, but I talked to him about it being the seat of the soul, that we develop perspective. It's the place in our brain from which we can have a greater perspective. So I really want you to try this and practice this, certainly the next day, today, tomorrow, as often as you can. What's it like to ground in your spine, the back of your neck, and also into your heart? I do a whole talk about the different layers of the heart, from the physical heart to the emotional heart to the spiritual heart to this place of emptiness where we can actually have a greater sense of breathing. So we want to begin making those shifts, and those are essential, and I really want to know what it's like for you. Now, the other piece I want to add about this is how do I want to say this? There's different access points, right? So if I'm connecting with you like I am right now, I'm more in a horizontal connection. I'm in an interpersonal connection with you, from inside me to you outside. So that's one center of gravity that we have, one access point. The other is a vertical access point from me inside myself, not to other people, but to my higher spirit, to my wisdom, to my soul, to the divine, whatever language that you use. There's this vertical access line. Now, what connects a vertical and a horizontal is there's a center point. And I think of that as the heart. That's my experience. And again, I'd like to know if that's true for you. In your heart, is that where it all comes together? So it's learning, how do we begin to make those steps inside ourselves? So Leslie, I hope this is helpful. I want to hear and know, and from all of you, what works and what doesn't work. And we'll go from there. So thanks for being here.